Hi, everybody. I'm a little later than I planned to be, um, for reasons that will become clear, I think, in a couple of weeks. But anyway, hi, this is Erica from In the Company of Cards. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. Normally, I call this Sunday Conversations, and I have a guest. Today, I do not have a guest, so it's just you and me, as I had advised the other day that it would be. And I asked you to send me questions, and I have a bunch of viewer questions that I am planning to look at, and a bunch more that I will not be able to get to, but I will pick it up tomorrow and answer more tomorrow. But before we start talking about the questions that you posed, I wanted to have this be a teachable moment. First of all, I don't know. I'm on the West Coast, so my East Coast knowledge gets a little skewed sometimes, but I misspoke in a huge way. Jack Ciattarelli is the Republican who is running um, for whatever he's running for. Was it mayor? Right? Governor. I don't know, whatever. Ciattarelli is from New Jersey, not New York. So I misspoke. Indeed, the Republican candidate for governor of New Jersey, no, New York, Ciattarelli is New Jersey. Ciattarelli is New Jersey. New York is Curtis Sliwa. So if you are of a certain age and again familiar with the East Coast, Curtis Sliwa's name will be very familiar to you because he was the founder of the Guardian Angels, which was sort of like I'm going to call them a vigilante group um, that had some credibility back in the olden days. I want to say in the 70s, maybe. He doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell of winning. So, really, the New York mayoral race is between Cuomo, who is backed by the party establishment, and Zohran Mamdani, who has received Jeffrey's support and is apparently wildly popular. He's the one who identifies as a democratic socialist. So Ciattarelli shouldn't have even been in the conversation. So sorry about that. Um, because he's a New Jersey guy. All right. The other thing, this is the teachable moment, the caveat emptor moment. Caveat emptor, I'm sure a lot of you know, but for those who don't, it's a Latin expression that means may the buyer beware or let the buyer beware. So I did a reading the other day, as you're all aware, about what would happen should Jasmine Crockett sue Carolyn Levitt. And I have to tell you, even as I saw the piece, and even as I was reading on it, I was like, is that even a thing? Because when you're in the public arena in that way, in the way that politicians are, they don't really run around suing people for mean things that they say, or even for lies that they tell in a slanderous way. So is she really going to sue Carolyn Levitt? Well, come to find out, that was what they call fake news. So then I said, well, if it's fake news, meaning that it's not a thing, she's not, Jasmine Crockett is not suing Carolyn Levitt, why did I get an answer from the cards? Well, I think the way that I'm going to answer it is, had she been going to sue, then the cards answered that question. Had it been real, this would have been the probable outcome. But it's not a thing. It's not going to happen. Public figures don't sue in that way. Because, I mean, if that were the case, why isn't Schiff suing the felon for calling him pencil neck, right? I mean, these things get slung around and people get what we would call slandered all the time. But when you're in the public arena, you let a lot of that stuff just go right over your head. And so, at the time I thought, would really Jasmine Crockett sully herself with getting in the ring with Carolyn Levitt? So yeah, that was not a real thing. So, I will say that, as we move forward in this, especially gearing up to an election cycle, both with midterms and also the general election in 2028, there will be, and just in general, right, there will be a lot of fake news. So I'm going to take my own advice and do way better due diligence. I don't think I screw up that often, but that was a big screw up. And I even thought about coming on really quick yesterday and saying that, but I'm saying it today. We all need to do our due diligence and go to news sources that we feel are um, legitimate and accurate, because there will be a lot of attempts to make people think a whole lot of different things, just for people's own purposes. And so we have to sort of again do our due diligence, and I promise, do mine in the future. Okay. So there are just so many things to look at. So I think the big burning one, which, because it's a big burning one, probably, if I were a better producer of this program, I would save it for the end and like tease it periodically, but that's not how I roll, as you know. I mean, this is like a burning question, and so I'm just gonna, hit it out of the gate. And that is Kamala Harris, and this is not fake news, this is legitimate. Kamala Harris did an interview with the BBC, British Broadcasting Company, which, by the way, is a very good source for news. If you were looking for an app to put on your phone, one of the really good news sources is the BBC, BBC News. So, but anyway, she did an interview, and it was previewed yesterday, I guess, and then aired today. And in that interview, she said, out of her own mouth, she said she may run for president in 2028. Now, let me just say, you know how I always tell you that energy is mutable and that people have free will. I do think she was as stunned as a lot of the rest of us were when she lost the election, or when it was stolen from her by the felon in November. So there's that. I think she was hurt by her treatment by by the Democratic Party, which did not do right by her, as her memoir will recount. You can find that anywhere. I have it on my Kindle. Uh, I think she has gone on this book tour, and I think that she has been largely well received on this book tour. I'm sure she has heard from a lot of people, a lot of disappointed people who, who agree or believe, as we all do, that the election was rigged, stolen, from her. But she burned a lot of bridges, I suspect, with the writing of that book and the casting of blame where it belonged, in terms of Biden's people, and people like Pelosi, who did not support her. Not really. So, the question is, well, the question is, there's several questions, right? The first one that comes to my mind is, you're gonna run in, maybe you're gonna run in 28, and what party are you running with? Like, it's not going to be the Democrats. Obviously, it's not the Republicans. So, would you run as an independent? Like, and is this in the heat of the moment that you're saying this because you're ginned up by all of the support that you've gotten on this tour and by how bad you see things are getting in this country? Or Was it a trial balloon that you threw out just in, just to see how it would be received if you made noises about possibly running in 28? Uh, I know a lot of people were buoyed by this announcement, lifted up, raised up, elated, thrilled. Uh, for me, I'm just left asking those questions that I just asked. Uh, would her time not be better served doing what all of these millennials are saying that we need to do, which is move over and let them have a chance at the game? I mean, come on. There are lots of young people who would love a shot, would love to be groomed. Maybe, not for the presidency necessarily, but for obviously lesser offices with an eye towards being prepared eventually for a run for the presidency. Is her time really best served? So what was that comment all about? Was it a throwaway comment? Was it a trial balloon? Was it trolling of whoever's listening and whoever she would want to troll? Or was it really a serious, heartfelt comment that she is investigating a run for president? Again, it will not be that she is the Democratic nominee. I mean, of course, the Democrats would have a primary, so maybe she could be the nominee. I don't know. But I think the first question is, what was that all about? So I'm going to pull the tarot card first. And it's the Ace of Baskets. This is the Black Tarot, but I also have I have these cards in order here. Um, let's see. Yeah, hang on. So baskets in the Black Tarot, it's this one, are cups, the Ace of Cups. So what's that all about? What is the Ace of Cups all about? First of all, cups are about, and baskets are about emotion. So I do feel she is in this moment filled up with emotion about the state of this country, about the racism, the misogyny, the tearing down of the East Wing, the tearing down of democracy, the rising up of fascism. She is feeling this deeply and saying, had I been president, had I been set up in the right way so that I could be president, and had the election not been stolen from me, none of this would have happened. So she feels, I would say, a deep love and responsibility for the country. That's clear. So I'm going to say that given that, I don't think that she was trolling. I don't think she was trolling. That's not to say that it wasn't a trial balloon. Like, in other words, let me just say this thing and then see where it goes, see how it's received, see if, for example, the Democratic Party is willing to stop being mad at me for calling them out, see how the public reacts. Do they really love me in the way that they seem to when I go on these book tours? It could have been that, but I don't think it was a trolling thing. Uh, I think it came from a really heartfelt place. So that's good to know. But let's pull cards and see where her head is. I'm going to use Lenormand, and I'm going to use the older woman, and that will stand for Harris. And we just want to see where her head is in this whole idea of whether or not she would run in 28. Um, you know, just like a first look at this issue, because if she's for real, and I think in the moment. And remember, time is mutable, things change. She could have woken up the next morning and say, "Oh my God, what did I say?" That could happen, you know. Or she could say, "I said that thing and people have reacted the way they've reacted, and so I'm all in." We don't know. time is mutable and people have free will. So we really need to allow for that. But I would like to know in this moment, right, on this Sunday afternoon, what where is her head in this election 2028 presidential election thing? Okay, so let's see what we get. My table's a little crowded because I've got all these decks, but we'll do the best we can. Okay, so I'm looking for the older woman. That will be Harris. Okay, so here she is, taking the two cards to the left and the two cards to the right. I'm just going to pull one clarifier each. Um, and then maybe, oh, I've got cards all over the desk. Um, and then I'll pull a final postscript. I'll leave those face down for the moment. Okay. Now, reminded me of something that she said that I wanted to, can't remember what I was going to say. Can I say? Old people brain. Okay, so the cards are the star, the clouds. Here's Harris, the anchor. Oh, I know what I was going to say. And the tree. The anchor in the tree reminded me of what I was going to say. So she is thinking about her future. She is. And, one of the things that has said is that, this is the work that I've done all my life. This is my legacy. So these two we can mirror together. So she probably has some dark nights of the soul. She's probably had some really hopeful moments when she said, I could do this. We do need a shift, and maybe I'm the one to bring that about. But the second card is clouds. And clouds are about doubts. So everything that I said in terms of, how is she going to do that? Is she going to run as an independent? Would the party nominate her? Could she win a primary over, I don't know, Newsom or Pritzker or, you know, would the country say we're still not ready for a woman? We need a man. I mean, who knows? So there's a lot of doubts around that. And I can mirror this with the anchor. In some ways, she may have sunk herself by telling tales out of school about the dysfunction of the Democratic Party. Certainly, if she's trying to seek the Democratic nomination. So there are doubts around this. Okay. So I pulled one clarifier for each card, and then I pulled my three-card postscript just to see if it would tell us anything. So the future, right? Clarifier is the bear. Now, normally I will say that this is the card for the felon at his most narcissistic, but that's not what I see here. We're looking at her, and in the future, I think she does feel very much like a different meaning for this card, one of the more benign meanings of this card, which is the mother card, like the mother of the nation by virtue of being president. She feels some sort of maternal, we'll call it duty of care for the nation. And she thinks that she is the woman for the job because this is also the card for the boss, the one in charge. So she thinks in the future, this is what precipitated her comment. I feel so strongly that Ace of Cups card about this country. My feelings are so strong about this country and how much I love it and about how badly it's been damaged. I want to, I want to be the mother bear in the future who heals that mess that the felon has made. Now, the clouds, which are doubts, are clarified by the bouquet. So there, she is not unaware of the doubts surrounding whether this could work, whether she would be given the brass ring, the golden ticket, the reward, the gift, which is what all these cards are, of the nomination. There's a lot of work to do. We are at the end of 2025. The nominee will be named, you know, after the midterms. There's a whole another year that has to go by. So, before that election cycle really heats up and people throw themselves into the field, there, even she has doubts as to whether she could win the nomination. But she also, this is her, she also believes that the White House was meant to be her destiny. A lot of us believe that. But somebody's destiny can also be ripped from them, and that is what happened. But here we see her saying, "This was my destiny," which is to say, therefore, this still is my destiny. I think that's how she's thinking. She knows full well, in this anger card, that it would be an absolutely uphill climb. These cards, in some ways, are synonyms of each other. They're the same thing. This is very sort of heavy, stuck energy. There would be a lot of impediments that she would have to pass through, because, you know, because of for all the reasons that we already know, right? She's burned some bridges with the party. Can those bridges be rebuilt? Could she win the nomination over all these men that are going to throw their hats in the ring? Would people who said they voted for her, but really they didn't vote for her, would they vote for her this time around? Now that their SNAP benefits are cut, their jobs are gone, and their relatives deported and whatever else, can she get over those hurdles and win those people? These are hurdles. And then I pulled a clarifier on the tree. The tree is like the card for legacy. She believes that the White House is her legacy. And it's interesting that the clarifier is the garden. A lot of people, a lot of the people, a lot of the American people agree, and probably more agree now than agreed on election day, because they're the ones who are being adversely affected by the felon. So I pulled a three-card clarifier. And again, this is just a preliminary look at her preliminary comment, and so that we can judge her sort of preliminary state of mind. But time will pass. We will look at this again, unless she says tomorrow, "Oh, psych, I was kidding," which is not going to happen. But this reading will probably go through several different iterations between now and when we really know what's going to happen. So I will look again at this at a future date, but I just thought it would be interesting to look at now. So the three-card postscript I drew were the fox, the cross, and the book. Don't love these. When I look at the fox, it feels to me like the Democratic Party apparatus, the movers and shakers, the behind the scenes deciders, the people who won't give up their power for her or for a younger generation. Gen X, I mean, Gen X is younger than Boomer. Come on. They won't give it up. These are the movers and shakers. And look, this card is, I don't think she has a road to success. Um, and I think that there are There will be wheels within wheels and all kinds of backstabby type secret stuff done by these people to make sure she has no road forward. But again, this is just a preliminary look. It's just a preliminary look. I would love it. I would vote for her. I would love it if she ran again. But at this point in time, and time is mutable and people have free will, but at this point in time, there is not a way forward for her. Sorry to be the bearer of those tidings, but they are consistent with what I have seen throughout. Um, yeah, she can serve in some other capacity, and I'm sure she will. Public service, as she said, has been where she has spent her whole life. Um, a place will be found for her in the administration, probably whoever it is runs. Maybe God, please expand the court and put her on the court. Um, but I don't think there is a road in this moment right now. I don't think there is a road to the presidency for her. Okay, feel free to disagree, but I'm just going by what the cards said, right? So, okay. I had a viewer question um, about Princess Catherine's health. Um, I know there's no love lost between her and Andrew, but I guess there's no love lost between Andrew and a lot of people, so that's not anything surprising. But someone did inquire as to how her health is. I think they were probably a Brit because, or a Canadian because they call her Princess Catherine. We informal Americans tend to say Kate, but Princess Catherine is her official title. How is her health? So I'm going to use, she's not, she's in her 40s. She is going to be the Queen of England. She's got three children. We're going to use the older woman for her, although obviously she's not that old, but she's not a young girl in the blush of youth either. So if I had to choose, which I do, I'm going to choose the older woman, and we're looking at her health. I could have chosen the tree for health because that is the card for health, but I just want to see what is around her. Maybe the tree will pop up, maybe it won't. But there are other cards that can let me know how she's doing. Okay, so we're looking at Princess Catherine's. Okay, so this is Princess Catherine. I don't know why I pulled so many cards. My hand just kept moving. So, okay, the first card is the fox. We have the scythe. We have Princess Catherine. We have the bouquet. And we have the child. Now, I'm going to say that this is the card for um, medical specialists. And I do think that um, moving forward, they could find something else, but it's something small. If you live in a physical body, which we all do, it has ups and downs and it throws us curveballs and does things we'd rather it not do. It's the price that we pay for being in human form. And she's had a particularly tough road to hoe. I do think that she is very carefully monitored and that they will catch the least little thing super early. So I think there might be something and they catch it early. Um, this scythe feels like something surgical, but I feel like that whatever it is, because they catch it early, she'll be okay. So there's that. Um, Here again, we have this medical specialist card, and then the clarifiers are the man, the stork, and the fish. Uh, I'm going to say that, the men in her family um, care a lot about her, meaning Charles and her husband, William. I think that's both of these men. Um, the stork, it's positive change. So they really want her to be well and do well. And there's a lot of emotion around this. Fish is the card for emotion. So they are very solicitous of her, do not want her to um, work as hard as she had done prior to her illness. And so, again, I think great care is going to be taken of her, and that the men, meaning the king and the crown prince, are the what's he called? The Prince of Wales, um, are solicitous of her and very understanding of um, her limitations in terms of energy. And yeah. So this scythe, a lot of times this is the card for surgery. The clarifiers are the star, the tower, and then we have the young woman. I think now the vertical of this is a past line. On the other hand, um, we have the star, which speaks to the future. So I do think there may be some further surgical procedures that will have to take place in the future, at the hospital. But, and I think that, I can mirror the scythe with this young woman card. I feel like, and I mean, I'm not the first to say this, and maybe it's why the viewer was called to ask the question. I think that anytime you undergo that kind of physical ordeal, it ages you. And so her youthful vibrancy has been undercut somewhat. She's a little bit hollowed out feeling, hollowed out seeming, but it's just the nature of how these things go. Um, and she really does have to conserve her energy. So here she is. Um, I like these cards for her. We have the ship moving forward. We have the tree and we have the dog. I'm going to say she has very good support, both psychological, emotional support, and physical support. So her health is being buoyed up and supported so that she can move forward and be prepared for, the duties that will come her way before too long, and the ones that she already faces now. The bouquet is our fourth card. Clarifiers are the bear, the mountain, and the man. I think that you know, one of the gifts of her life is being a mother to these children. I think that one of the things that is a difficult thing for her as a mother, here she is as a mother, is the fact that there will be increasing distance, both physical and emotional, between, this is the distance, the block kind of between her and her first son, George. George is 12. I think that in a year he will be sent away to boarding school. I think that's the decision. I don't think she wanted that, but um, that's what they do. He will. George has as the heir, right after his father and grandfather, will have a lot on him. He will have to grow up fast, and I think that the pressure of that, or the worry about him being able to um, bear this weight on his slight, not even teenage shoulders. I think that weighs on her because, again, one of the joys of her life has been being mother to these three children, and George will be the one who, um, will be whisked away first, and in the most, uh, I don't know, I think abrupt and complete way. Not that she won't see him at holidays and all of that, and but the firm will take over his the care and feeding and education of George, will be taking that over from her. And I think that weighs on her. When we look at health, we understand that, you know, much like functional medicine doctors do, we understand that the body and the mind and the soul and the spirit and are all connected. And I think that's why it's coming up, that it will be a source of emotional pain for her to have to let him go in that way. Uh, the final card is the child. That's our fifth card, and the clarifiers are the lily, the whip, and the coffin. I said that I thought that the doctors would find something um, small that they would address immediately, which is great that they will address it. Well, here's what I don't love. I don't love um, that I see in the line of clarifiers the lily and the coffin, because we all know what that means. If you're new here, or you're unfamiliar with Lenormand, or you haven't happened to see a video where this combination came up, this is the combination for physical mortality. But I like the fact, if these cards have to show up, I like the fact that the whip is here, because it mitigates the two cards, separates the two cards, keeps them from being that combination that we all kind of shudder when we see. I think that the whip is the card for discipline. And I think that um, all her life, she will have to, I mean, we're all mortal, right? So it's just that most of us do not, in every moment, remind ourselves, you know, dust thou art, to dust thou shalt return. Most of us do not have that uppermost in our minds unless we're sick, or we get old, or have an accident, or any number of things, right? But for her, um, this is constantly in her mind. Uh, and and on the one hand, it will make her pay attention to the signals that her body gives her, the signs that her body shows her. On the other hand, and it will make her rigorous in her own attention to her health. But I also feel that uh, it is a burden for her. It's a constant thing. I don't want to die. I don't want to leave my children motherless in the way that my husband and his brother were left that way. So it's like always preying on her mind, I think. Um, but that's more her thoughts. So, again, so the Cliff Notes version is I think that she will always have to pay attention to her health. I think that everyone will be mindful of um, her stamina and her need for rest and quiet when those needs arise. And I think that the shadow will always be over her in her mind because she looked it in the face once. And so it's hard to unsee something when you see it. So we will keep her in our prayers. We will hold little George in our thoughts too, because it's not an easy thing what is coming towards him. Um, I think for the moment, for the time being, she's fine as can be expected. But there may come up an issue that will have to be addressed. And by the way, it may not be anything that we ever hear about. Um, I mean, look how long it took for them to tell us the original news. And we never really found out exactly what kind of cancer she had. So they will keep themselves to themselves, keep things buttoned up, but she is in very good hands, both medically and also in terms of the team around her, and particularly her husband and her father-in-law, and her father and her mother, and her sister and her brother. She's got a very good support system. Um, I think, her two worries are, could this come back? And her other worry is George going to boarding school. Okay. Someone asked me to read on, and I'm not going to read on it because but I am going to comment on it. Uh, uh, Russell Vogt and J.D. Vance. And the question essentially was, will they break everything? And I have looked at them both separately on more than one occasion. They, like the felon, their mission is, yes, to break everything. Will they break everything? Pretty much, yes. But I will also remind you, I'm pretty sure I've said this here before, but I'll say it again. And maybe it's the first time, I don't know, maybe you've heard it from me before, but it can't hurt for me to say it again. Physics tells us that two objects cannot take up the same space at the same time. It's a physical impossibility. And that means that in order for us to build the kind of nation that we want, that the founders would approve of, that we deserve, all of us, the structure that exists needs to be dismantled. Um, because otherwise, there's no room for this new heaven, this new earth that we want to bring in. So I think, will they break everything? Yeah, they're doing that. They're breaking everything. Yes. But I will remind you of a line from Ralph Ellison's book, Invisible Man. It's a very short line. The line is, all sickness is not unto death. He goes on to say, neither is invisibility. So we are a sick nation. We were so sick, we didn't even know how sick we were. Some of us didn't know we were sick at all. But now the sickness is uncovered, and there are layers and layers and layers of this moral illness. But it doesn't have to be a mortal illness. It is a moral illness. It doesn't have to be a mortal illness. And that, whether it is or not, is up to us. But yes, Vogt and Vance and the felon, their job is to break everything. That's what they're going to do. All right. Um, Another viewer question. We all want to get to the other side of this, right? So, I mean, I've had some people say, well, how much longer? I'm not answering questions like that. First of all, no reader can accurately tell you that, and I've explained why. Um, it'll be enough when it's enough, and it's not enough yet. But anyway, on the other side of this rainbow, this is the next question, another one of those, what happens on the other side of this? The question is, will the felon's children face charges once his reign is over, however that happens, right? Will they face charges? And what would they be facing charges for? Well, grift. I guess that's um, the non-legal term. But will his children face charges? I'm gonna let Spirit pull all the cards. Will his children pay for their misdeeds in these two during this time, this decade, once he's gone? So Spirit's picking all the cards. So we have the book, we have the dog, we have the tree, we have the star, and we have the ring. Um, it's interesting that the reading starts with the book. The book is about things that are hidden. We know that they've done a lot of stuff that we don't know anything about. I can mirror it with this last card. There are a lot of contracts, right, that they've gotten, money that they've made that we don't know about. And these would be through foreign um, foreign interactions, we'll just say. Uh, Second card is the dog, and the fourth card is the star. I mean, this is lawyers. They will be lawyered up, and they will have to be moving forward into the future. Now, in the center, we have the tree. And one of them, yeah, we just looked at the tree, when it meant health, but it means something else too. It has to do with lineage and legacy. And this name, their family name, will go down in infamy. So that's just my opinion, but let's look at the cards and pull some clarifiers on that tree. Because we know they're going to have to be lawyered up. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Yeah. So again, this is, their family name, their descendants, etc. But look what happens to this tree. It gets cut down. It gets besmirched. It gets damaged, wounded. Um, Particularly the men. And then we have clouds. Their future is in doubt. whether they um, live long and prosper. They may live long, but whether they prosper will absolutely be in doubt. Um, so will they be prosecuted? I suspect that they will with the dog card here because that's lawyers. Yes. But it's more the reputational harm, I feel like, that will be done to them by their own deeds and their fallen father's deeds. You wouldn't want to be a grandchild and have that as your last name in 20 years. Another question that's related. So, instead of jumping around, why don't I stick to the theme for the moment? Somebody asked me, uh, what's up with Barron? Now, we know that Barron had gotten into NYU, then left NYU before the school year was out. Uh, his first school year was out. He returned to DC. We know that, I mean, I am not convinced that he's taking classes anywhere. I do know that he's trading crypto, and I think that he's made a ton of money. That's what word on the street is, and that's not false, fake news. I think that's true. I think he's made millions, but I think that he's made millions probably based on insider trading. In other words, prior knowledge of events that would affect the markets, right? And if you have that prior knowledge, where did you get it? And if you have prior knowledge and you're trading on the basis of that prior knowledge, that's a crime. Insider trading, that's called. So let's look at him. We will use the young man card and see what we can see about Barron. Uh, yeah, okay. Okay, we're looking for the young man, and this will be Barron Trump. What is up with him? Ooh, okay. So, his energy is so yucky. I didn't even want to pull more cards than just the few that I pulled. So I only pulled clarifiers on him. But anyway, we have Clover, Mice, there's Baron, Fish, and his mom. Okay. This will be short and sweet. Let me take a little sip. La Croix, if you're watching, feel free to sponsor. I love the strawberry peach, just saying. Uh, right now, he's having a grand old time. This is one of the happiness cards. The bouquet is one of them, and the third one is clover. Well, the third one is the bouquet. Wait a minute, it's the bouquet, the lily, and clover. Those are the three happiness cards. This is a particular type of happiness, though. This is like you won the lottery happiness, or I don't know, Santa Claus came happiness. It is lucky and ephemeral, meaning here today, gone tomorrow. Santa Claus doesn't come every day. And if he did, we couldn't sustain the that hyped up feeling, right? Um, there is also a carelessness attached to this card, Clover. And it's making me think when I look at the second card that, again, he's flying high, he's making mad money, he's, you know, living that life. But I think that this gets eroded. Like this, in other words, this state cannot, excuse me, last indefinitely. And not only will it not last, it will be um, nibbled away at. Uh, he will, well, he's going to experience some big losses. What goes up comes down. He's in the center. And the second card, which is loss, what will he lose? Money. Now, right now, he's making money, right? But if he is making this money, if this money is ill-gotten gains, in the fullness of time, when the felon fades from the forefront, Barron will be ruined with lawsuits, criminal suits, and everything else. Uh, Interesting that his mom is at the end of the line, but let me say, his mom is his mom. She loves him. I think she thinks he's a little odd because he is a little odd. But his mom, entertainment purposes only, could be called a grifter too, allegedly. So, he learned from the best, both his parents. Just make that fast money, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Don't ask questions, just, do the deal. So he's learned that. But I think in the end, it's going to cost him in a big way. And then I pulled clarifiers only on him. So here he is. Look at the clarifiers: the mountain, the clouds, and the cross. I do not see him coming to a good end, which is to say, I see him meeting a bad end. I'm not going to look further into that, but I'm not the first reader actually to say this. But here are the cards. Um, he gets stopped. Um, I think there's a lot of muddied, confused thinking. I don't know whether it's something to do with his own biology or acts that he commits, but this is not good. This is a card of pain and endings and loss and sorrow. So, uh, he's very young to be pulled into this criminal enterprise of a lifestyle without, basically, he had no chance of other than that, right? So, I mean, I feel bad for him. As an empath, I feel bad. But he has slid into this lifestyle like he's to the manor born, because he was to the manor born. He was born for this kind of um, what walking on the wrong side of things, we'll just say. So I don't know how it's going to play out. We'll see again in the fullness of time. But he's up to no good. And I don't think it's just money, but again, allegedly and for entertainment purposes only. It brings me no pleasure to say that or to see those cards about someone so young. It is what it is. Um, a Canadian asked if the felon would attack Canada. Now, I guess they mean with weaponry because, I mean, has he not already attacked Canada? 100% tariffs, what? But, Canada as nice as Canada is, they are giving as good as they're getting, and I am cheering them on. We all know, if you're a long-time viewer, you know that I have a lot of Canadian friends, a lot of Canadian fans. The day after the election, my partner and I got on a plane and went to Canada, and we're very happy to be there. I love Canada and Canadians, and I just I, I obviously this is not my doing, but I feel hugely embarrassed and ashamed uh, of the way that we have treated Canada. So, the question, the way it was phrased, I guess the question was, will they do some sort of military um, attack? I'm sure he wouldn't mind. I mean, how else is he going to build the tunnel that's supposed to go from Russia to Alaska, if not through Canada? So he would love it, but will he be able to? Will he live long enough? Will he, does he have enough bandwidth given everything else he's doing, including sending warships to South America? Does he have time also to physically attack Canada? So let's let Spirit pick all the cards. Okay, so we have the cross, the bear, the man, the star, the woman. I'm going to say that, when you see the cross in the beginning of the line, I think I said this last week in a reading when we got the cross as the first card. I think the question's a non-starter, and I think that's because he's got so much else on his plate domestically and then elsewhere abroad that I don't think that he will. I don't think that he will be attacking Canada now. I mean, again, I think he'd love to do that, to be the bully. And you would think this would be a card for Canada, but this is not. This is the narcissist felon. Here is the card for Canada. You know, bold, brave, un uh what? Undaunted. Um, so in the future, I think the US will be, not in a position to even talk as tough as they're talking to Canada. Canada will be doing business with other countries when, in areas where they used to do business with us, and we're going to wish we hadn't treated our neighbors to the north the way that we have. And again, I am so sorry. Uh, Speaking of, on the same theme, a viewer asked me whether Hyundai, which was thrown out of Georgia, remember that? Where he had the workers, South Korean workers, shackled and handcuffed and stuffed on a plane. And then when he realized, oh, wait a minute, we need them, he held up the plane and wanted them to please, pretty please come back. And South Korea's like, no, bring him home. Well, the question from the viewer was, will that Hyundai plant return to Georgia? Or the viewer is another Canadian, and they said, or, we'd love to have them here in Canada. And I know that Canada is a very hospitable country, so I don't doubt that for a minute. Will this plant return? Will the workers return? Will Hyundai return? Hyundai is, of course, South Korean company. I had a Hyundai and I loved it. Um, will they return to Georgia? Let's pull just three cards. The answer is hell no. That is done, dusted, dead. Uh, and that's the message that South Korea and Hyundai will be sending. And they will say, we have greener pastures. And, Canada, I hope that's you. So, yeah, no, they will not be returning to Georgia. Uh, Somebody asked me a question, and again, this is one of those ones I'm not going to answer because the answer is kind of obvious. Like, why are we asking this question? The question was, um, how 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 will reproductive rights in the United States fare moving forward? I mean, what do you think? What do you think? The object of the game, if you recall, in Project 2025, is to strip us of Roe. Well, they did that. Also, strip us of contraception, period. Also, to financially compensate the Aryan among us so that they will have more children. But then I guess, you'll need the workforce, right? So, you know, the more babies, the better. And you'll have the underclass and then the ruling class. Um, and to keep women, as they say, barefoot and pregnant. What do you think the future of reproductive rights is meant to be? And again, it's what I said about physics. Two things can't take up the same space at the same time. So, uh, in other words, things get worse before they blow up, so to speak, metaphorically, right? And then we build something back better. In the meantime, will we lose more reproductive rights than we've already lost? Yes. I mean, that you don't need cards for that. Okay. Can't tell you what you want to hear, um, but I will always try to tell you the truth. Uh, oh, okay. Will Proposition 50 pass? So, today's the whatever, the 26th. So we have another week until the election here in California. And this is the special election, Proposition 50. I already voted yes. Hope everybody else in California who's listening to me has already voted yes or will vote yes, which will allow the redrawing of our electoral maps. It is in response to what Texas did to disenfranchise the Democratic vote. We know that Newsom made an announcement the other day that the federal government is apparently sending election monitors here and to wherever else to make sure that the votes are fairly counted. Now, obviously, that's not why he's sending election monitors here. First of all, it's a state election. We have our own mechanism for counting votes. Nobody asked anybody to come here, so it is an intimidation tactic. So, in light of the intimidation, it's a good question to ask, will the proposition pass? So I guess I will look at, I'm going to use the letter, and that will stand for the vote. And we'll look at the cards around it and see whether it looks like um, good news or not for Proposition 50. It really needs to pass. So again, if you're a Californian and you haven't yet voted yes, vote yes. If you're a Californian and you want to vote no, stay home. Anyway, all right. So we're looking for um, the letter, and that will stand for Proposition 50. Snake, house, letter, heart, box. Again, that last thing I said, which is that he's going to send monitors, what they'll probably be masked ICE agents, armed. Those will be the monitors because he wants to create problems. He being the felon. In case we're not sure, the White House. They want to cause problems for this election. Um, Now, what's interesting is we got the house, right? And it mirrors the heart. So I'm not sure what that's about. But I will say that the snake mirrors the fox. So, I don't know. We know what they are capable of when it comes to rigging elections. So I feel like they will try. Uh, Whether they can or not, I don't know. But let me pull some clarifiers. I'm going to pull clarifiers on the letter and just see what I get. Okay. I like these. So this is the actual vote, and this is all the people who will be coming out or who have come out so that the proposition can move forward. And again, we take this alternative path. Because again, this was in response to the funny business in Texas. Newsom knows how to play hardball and he knows how to play dirty if he needs to. So I think that despite efforts to thwart it, I do think Proposition 50 passes. We'll know soon. We'll know in a little more than a week. I do think it passes. Um, I think I'm going to leave it there. I think it's been a while, but I have more questions to go through for tomorrow. So you will see me at some point tomorrow afternoon. Listen, thank you so, so much for all your kindnesses to me. They mean the world. I read all of your comments. Can't comment on everything because it's a lot, but I definitely read them all and appreciate them all and love you all. And we're in this together. So I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Take care.